In Greek mythology, one name echoes through the ages: Heracles. To the Romans, he was known as Hercules, a figure of immense power. He stands as the most celebrated hero whose exploits have captivated audiences for millennia. Heracles was a champion, a monster slayer, his life a whirlwind of impossible challenges and monumental triumphs. Born into a world of gods and mortals, Heracles was destined for greatness. His story is a fundamental pillar of Greek culture. He embodies the ultimate archetype of the hero. Heracles' influence stretches far beyond the pages of myth. The tales of his adventures served as both entertainment and a moral compass. Another son of Zeus, he was a bridge between two worlds. It is this duality that makes his story so compelling. Heracles' origins are dramatic. He was the son of Zeus, king of the gods, and Alcmene, a mortal woman. Zeus desired Alcmene and deceived her. Alcmene bore twins, Heracles, son of Zeus, and Iphicles, son of her husband. This parentage made Heracles a demigod, target of Hera's jealousy. From infancy, Hera sought to destroy him. Heracles became the embodiment of Zeus's power, facing Hera's fury. His legacy was woven into Greek history. When we picture Heracles, a specific and powerful image springs to mind. Ancient artists gave him distinct attributes, symbols that immediately identified him. The most famous is the skin of the Nemean Lion, a constant reminder of his first great labor. Another essential symbol is his club, a rustic, formidable tool. Together, the lion skin and the club create the quintessential image of the wandering hero. Heracles was also a master archer, using poisoned arrows after defeating the Lernaean Hydra. Visually, Heracles is depicted as the pinnacle of human strength, a physical embodiment of his divine heritage. You saw a hero capable of wrestling giants and holding up the sky itself. His look was his legend, made visible. Beyond his strength, Heracles was complex, celebrated for his courage and bravery. His determination was absolute, seeing tasks through no matter the cost. He was a champion, complemented by resourcefulness. Heracles was capable of great ingenuity. He diverted 2 rivers to clean the Augean stables in a day. This mix of brawn and brains made him formidable. At his core, Heracles was passionate and loyal, traveling to the ends of the earth for those he cared for. However, his passionate nature was also the source of his greatest flaws, prone to fits of towering rage. This internal conflict makes Heracles a compelling and deeply human character. The most tragic aspect of Heracles' character was his vulnerability to madness, a divine curse wielded by Hera. Hera would often inflict upon him dreadful fits of insanity. During these episodes, Heracles would lose all control, consumed by a blind rage. The most infamous episode occurred after he settled down with his first wife, Megara, and their children. Hera sent a madness so profound that Heracles slaughtered his own family. He was left to confront the horrific reality of his actions. This led him to seek purification and perform his 12 labors as penance. This highlights the hero's tragic fate: immense power, yet powerless against a vengeful goddess. Ultimately, the duality of Heracles' nature is what makes him so enduring. Heracles' family was a sprawling network of gods, mortals, heroes, and kings. He had a twin brother, Iphicles, son of Amphitryon, while Heracles was the son of Zeus. Through Zeus, Heracles was half-brother to deities like Athena and Apollo. This divine lineage brought allies and enemies like Hera. Through his mother, Alcmene, Heracles was a descendant of Perseus. This heroic bloodline meant greatness was expected. His family ties rooted him in the legendary history of Greece. This intricate family tree was both a blessing and a curse, shaping him through love and loss. Throughout his life, Heracles had several wives, each relationship telling a crucial part of his story. His first wife, Megara, bore him several children, but Hera's jealousy led Heracles to murder them in a fit of madness. As penance for another crime, he served Omphale, queen of Lydia, and some say they married and had children. His final mortal wife was Deianira. Deceived by a dying centaur, Nessus, she used his blood as a love charm, unaware it was poison. This act led to Heracles' agonizing death. After his death, he ascended to Olympus and married Hebe, goddess of youth. The story of Heracles' family did not end with his death. His influence continued through his many children, who were collectively known as the Heracleidae. Heracles was said to have fathered a vast number of sons and daughters with many different women during his travels across the ancient world. These children inherited not just his heroic bloodline, but also the enmity of his old foes. After his death, his children were persecuted by his nemesis, King Eurystheus of Mycenae, the very man who had assigned him his 12 labours. They were driven out of their homes and forced to wander Greece, seeking refuge from Eurystheus's relentless pursuit. Their struggle became a foundational myth in its own right, known as the Return of the Heraclidae. Led by Heracles' eldest son, Hyllus, the descendants of the hero spent generations fighting to reclaim the lands they believed were their birthright. They argued that Heracles, as the rightful king of Mycenae, had been cheated of his throne by Eurystheus. This quest for their ancestral home became an epic saga of exile, warfare and perseverance. It was a story that mirrored their father's own life of struggle, a testament to the enduring spirit and determination that ran in their bloodline. Their story was about finishing the fight that their father had started. After many failed attempts and long years in exile, the Heraclidae finally succeeded. They launched a great invasion of the Peloponnese, the southern peninsula of Greece. They conquered the major kingdoms of Mycenae, Sparta and Argos, deposing the ruling dynasties and establishing their own. This mythological event was used by later Greeks, particularly the Dorians, to explain and legitimize their historical migrations and conquests around 1100 BC. By claiming to be the returning descendants of Heracles, these new rulers gave themselves a divine and heroic mandate to rule, connecting their own power to the greatest hero of them all. In this way, Heracles' children ensured his legacy was not just remembered in myths, but was physically written into the political map of ancient Greece. Royal houses in Sparta, Argos, and even Macedonia proudly traced their ancestry back to him. To be a descendant of Heracles was to have a claim to greatness, to leadership, and to divine favor. His family and relationships, therefore, did more than just shape his personal story. They shaped the course of Greek history itself. His bloodline became a powerful political tool, and his children, the Heraclidae, carried his monumental legacy forward, ensuring the glory of Hera would never be forgotten. Heracles held a unique place in ancient Greece, worshipped as both a hero and a god. Shrines and temples were dedicated to him across the Greek world. As a hero, rituals honored his mortal suffering. As a god, sacrifices were made to him as an Olympian deity. This dual worship acknowledged his life and ascension to Olympus. Festivals like the Heraclea featured athletic contests. He was the patron of athletes, embodying physical perfection. Gymnasia often had shrines dedicated to him. Numerous cities were named Heraclea in his honor. Royal houses, like that of Alexander the Great, claimed descent from Heracles, legitimizing their rule. The influence of Heracles spread far beyond Greece. As Greek culture expanded, so did the hero's story, merging and influencing other civilizations. His adaptable figure, with core attributes of strength and protection, resonated across cultures. The Romans adopted him as Hercules, a god of victory and strength. In the Near East, he was linked to deities like Melkart, blending myths through syncretism. Even in Egypt, Heracles was associated with gods embodying strength. A fascinating adaptation occurred in India, where Heracles became Vajrapani, the Buddha's protector. From Greece to India, Heracles endured as a symbol of unwavering strength. The 12 labors of Heracles weren't for glory, they were penance for tragedy. Driven mad by Hera, Heracles killed his own family. Overcome with grief, he sought redemption at the Oracle of Delphi. The oracle decreed he serve King Eurystheus, who, spurred by Hera, assigned 12 impossible tasks. Heracles despised Eurystheus, but accepted his fate, knowing only these labors could cleanse his soul. Each task would test not just his strength, but his courage and wit, taking him to the ends of the earth and even the underworld. Redemption and immortality awaited if he survived. First, Heracles faced the Nemean Lion, its hide immune to weapons. He trapped it in its cave and strangled it with his bare hands. Next, the Lenaean Hydra, a serpent that grew 2 heads for every one cut off. With his nephew Iolaus, Heracles burned each stump after decapitation, halting regeneration. Hera sent a giant crab to distract him, but Heracles crushed it. Finally, he buried the immortal head under a boulder and dipped his arrows in the Hydra's deadly blood. These victories proved Heracles' strength and ingenuity. The labours had only just begun. The third labour demanded delicacy: capture the sacred Cyrenian hind, beloved of Artemis, without harm. Heracles chased it for a year, finally capturing it and appeasing Artemis with respect and honesty. Next, the Erymanthian boar, a monstrous beast ravaging Arcadia. Advised by the centaur Pholus, Heracles drove the boar into deep snow, capturing it alive. These tasks tested his patience, endurance, and cleverness. Heracles proved he was more than a brute. He was a hero of wit and restraint. The challenges grew ever more daunting. The fifth labour was humiliation: clean Augeas's filthy stables in a day. Heracles diverted 2 rivers, washing the stables clean, outsmarting the impossible. Cheated of his reward, he pressed on. Next, the Stymphalian birds, man-eating monsters with bronze beaks and deadly feathers. With Athena's magical rattle, Heracles startled them into flight and shot them down. Each labour demanded not just strength, but cunning and divine aid. Heracles' legend grew with every trial. Heracles sailed to Crete to capture the fire-breathing Cretan bull, wrestling it into submission and bringing it to Eurystheus. Then to Thrace to seize the man-eating mares of Diomedes. After defeating Diomedes and his men, Heracles fed the cruel king to his own horses, taming them. He returned the mares to Mycenae, where they were set free. These labours showcased Heracles' might, resolve, and sense of justice. Each victory brought him closer to redemption and immortality. But the most perilous tasks still awaited. The ninth labour took Heracles to the far-off land of the Amazons, a formidable nation of warrior women. This task, interestingly enough, was set not by Eurystheus' own malice, but at the request of his daughter, Admete. She had heard tales of a magical belt, a symbol of queenship that belonged to the Amazon queen, Hippolyta. This belt had been a gift from her father Ares, the god of war, and Admete coveted it. So Eurystheus commanded Heracles to travel to the Amazon capital of Themyscira and retrieve the belt for his daughter. Understanding the formidable reputation of the Amazons, Heracles assembled a group of Greece's finest heroes to accompany him on this rather perilous journey. When Heracles and his companions arrived, they were met not with immediate hostility but with curiosity. Queen Hippolyta, impressed by the hero's formidable physique and noble bearing, came aboard his ship to greet him. When Heracles explained the reason for his quest, she was surprisingly accommodating. Admiring his courage and charmed by his presence, she readily agreed to give him her belt as a gift, seeing it as a fair exchange for the honour of his visit. It seemed for a moment that this would be the easiest of all his labours, a simple diplomatic mission that would be resolved without any bloodshed or conflict. However, the hero's eternal enemy Hera would not allow him such a simple victory. The goddess disguised herself as an Amazon warrior and spread a malicious rumour among the women. She claimed that Heracles had not come in peace, but had a treacherous plan to abduct their beloved queen, Hippolyta, and carry her away as a slave. The Amazons, fiercely protective of their queen and their independence, were enraged by this supposed treachery. They armed themselves, mounted their horses, and charged down to the harbour to attack Heracles and his men, believing they were saving their queen from a terrible fate. Caught completely by surprise, Heracles believed he had been betrayed by Hippolyta herself. Thinking her friendly welcome was just a ruse to trap him, the hero's demeanour changed instantly. In the chaos of the ensuing battle, he fought his way to the queen, and in a tragic misunderstanding fueled by divine intervention, he killed her and took the belt from her body. He and his men then fought their way back to their ship and sailed away, leaving a trail of death and sorrow behind them. What should have been a peaceful exchange had turned into a bloody tragedy, all because of the relentless hatred of a goddess. For his 10th labour, Eurystheus sent Heracles to the very edge of the known world. His task was to steal the cattle of Geryon, a fearsome monster who lived on the mythical island of Erythea, located far to the west in the Great Ocean. Geryon was a terrifying figure, often described as having 3 heads, 6 arms and 3 bodies joined together at the waist. He was a grandson of the Gorgon Medusa, and his herd of magnificent red cattle was guarded by a giant herdsman named Eurytion and a ferocious 2-headed dog named Orthrus, the brother of Cerberus. This labour was, really, a journey into a land of myth and monsters. To reach the distant island, Heracles had to cross the vast Libyan desert. Frustrated by the scorching heat of the sun, he angrily drew his bow and shot an arrow towards the sun god Helios. Rather than being offended, Helios was actually impressed by the hero's audacity and courage. He lent Heracles his golden chariot, a magnificent vessel that sailed across the ocean each night. In this divine chariot, Heracles was able to cross the water and reach the island of Erythea. As soon as he arrived, he was confronted by the 2-headed guard dog, Orthrus, which he swiftly killed with a single mighty blow from his olive wood club. The giant herdsman Eurytion rushed to help his dog, but he too was no match for the son of Zeus and was quickly slain. The commotion alerted Geryon himself, who came charging towards Heracles, wielding 3 shields and 3 spears. A tremendous battle ensued on the shores of the island. Despite the monster's multiple limbs and weapons, Heracles was the superior warrior. He fought with unmatched ferocity, and according to some accounts, he was aided by a single, perfectly aimed arrow that pierced all 3 of Geryon's bodies at once. The monstrous giant fell, and the magnificent red cattle were now his for the taking. The journey back was an adventure in itself. Heracles had to herd the cattle all the way from the western edge of the world back to Greece, a long and arduous trek across Spain, Gaul and Italy. Along the way he faced numerous challenges, fighting off thieves, monsters and local warlords who tried to steal the precious herd. During this journey he erected 2 great pillars on either side of the Strait of Gibraltar, forever marking the boundary between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. After many trials, he finally returned to Mycenae and delivered the cattle to Eurystheus, who sacrificed them to Hera. With 10 labours done, Eurystheus assigned 2 more. The 11th labour, steal the golden apples of the Hesperides, a wedding gift to Hera from Gaia, granting immortality. Heracles wrestled the location from Nereus, then freed Prometheus, who advised him to trick Atlas into retrieving the apples. His final labour, descend into the underworld and bring back Cerberus, the 3-headed hound of Hades. Hades agreed if Heracles used no weapons. Heracles wrestled Cerberus into submission and returned. Beyond his 12 labours, Heracles' life was a series of grand adventures and military campaigns. One notable exploit was the first sack of Troy before the Trojan War, triggered by King Laomedon's broken promise to pay Poseidon and Apollo for building the city walls. Heracles rescued the king's daughter Hesione from a sea monster, but Laomedon betrayed him, refusing to hand over divine horses. Years later, Heracles returned with an army, breaching the walls, slaying Laomedon, and installing Priam as the new king. This showcased Heracles as not just a monster slayer, but a dispenser of justice, warning rulers. A promise to Heracles must be kept. Heracles was not only a destroyer of monsters and a conqueror of kingdoms, he was also a great civilizing force and a founder of cities. As he travelled the vast distances required by his labours and other quests, he left a legacy of order and settlement in his wake. Many ancient cities across the Mediterranean world proudly claimed Heracles as their founder. The city of Tarentum in southern Italy, for instance, traced its origins back to the hero. Legend says he established it during his long and arduous journey, herding the cattle of Geryon back to Greece. These stories connected new colonies to the heart of Greek myth, granting them prestige and a heroic heritage. Another famous city that bears his name is Herculaneum, the town that would later be buried alongside Pompeii by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Local traditions held that Heracles founded the city after one of his great victories, establishing a bastion of Greek culture on the Italian peninsula. By founding these settlements, Heracles was seen as more than just a wandering warrior. He was a figure who brought order to wild lands, established centres of civilization, and spread Greek influence far from its homeland. Each city he founded was a testament to his role as a builder and a protector of mankind, a hero who made the world safer for humanity to flourish. Perhaps one of his most profound and merciful acts occurred during his quest for the golden apples of the Hesperides. His journey led him to the desolate Caucasus Mountains, where he discovered the Titan Prometheus chained to a rock. Prometheus was enduring an eternal punishment from Zeus for having given fire to mankind. Every day a great eagle would descend and devour the Titan's liver, only for it to regrow overnight, renewing his torment for the next day. Moved by pity for the Titan's selfless sacrifice and endless suffering, Heracles decided to intervene, defying the will of his own father Zeus. With unerring aim, he drew his mighty bow and shot the eagle out of the sky, killing it instantly. He then shattered the massive chains that had bound Prometheus for centuries, setting the Titan free from his long agony. This act of compassion was a defining moment for the hero. It showed that his strength was matched by a deep sense of empathy and justice. By freeing the benefactor of humanity, Heracles reinforced his own status as mankind's greatest champion. It was a powerful statement that his loyalty was not just to the gods of Olympus, but to the cause of righteousness wherever he might find it. Heracles' end came not from a monster, but from treachery involving his wife, Deianira. It began when they met Nessus, a centaur ferryman. Nessus assaulted Deianira, and Heracles shot him with a poisoned arrow. Dying, Nessus deceived Deianira, claiming his blood was a love charm. Years later, fearing Heracles loved another, Deianira smeared the blood on a tunic, hoping to win back his affection. But as Heracles wore the tunic by a sacrificial fire, the poison activated. Agonizing pain gripped him. The greatest hero was brought down by a poisoned shirt. Writhing in pain, Heracles knew his mortal life was over. In his agony, he made his way to Mount Oeta, choosing it for his final moments. There, he built his own funeral pyre. His mortal body was destroyed, but his immortal spirit was ready to be freed. As the flames rose, a cloud descended from Mount Olympus, carrying his immortal part away. While his mortal remains burned, the divine essence of Heracles ascended to the heavens. He was welcomed into the celestial realm as a god. Hera gave him her daughter, Hebe, the goddess of eternal youth, to be his immortal wife. He had completed his final journey and taken his rightful place among the Olympians. Through his suffering, he had transcended his mortal nature and achieved true immortality. His death was a glorious transformation, a final victory that solidified his legend. The legacy of Heracles stretches from the ancient world into modern times. He is the ultimate symbol of strength and perseverance. For millennia, his story has served as a foundational myth, a touchstone for what it means to be a hero. The tales of his labors are archetypal narratives of struggle and triumph. His influence permeates our art, literature, and even our language. Today, his story is retold in countless films and books, each generation reinterpreting his myth. Sports teams and brands adopt the name Hercules to evoke power and victory. He is a cultural shorthand for might, a universally understood symbol. More than just physical might, Heracles represents a complex form of heroism. His legacy is also one of redemption, a path to atonement through action. This combination of godlike strength and human suffering is the key to his eternal appeal. The story of Heracles explores the struggle between fate and free will. His life shows that a person is defined by how they carry their burdens. He met every challenge with determination, transforming pain into good. Heracles embodies the best and worst of humanity, capable of compassion, yet prone to rage. His labors are a metaphor for our own trials. With strength and persistence, no obstacle is insurmountable. Heracles is the champion of human potential. His story is about the struggle for meaning in a chaotic world. True heroism is about resilience and fighting for the light. The glory of Heracles will inspire humanity for generations.